Good morning and welcome to the New York Stock Exchange, the epicenter of the global financial markets. Today we have a very busy day ahead. It is the first day of the earnings season and we have the cast and creators of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel here to ring that opening bell to open up the U.S. equity markets. But first we're going to listen in on some boardroom remarks.
Good morning, everyone. I love that this is like a family reunion for you all. It's so obvious. It's so, the love you feel in this room is so obvious, which is, I'm sure, what's making the last few days in the lead up to the premiere of the last season a bit bittersweet for you all. So my name's Lynn Martin. I'm president and CEO of NYSE. I am definitely not what you would expect with that title. I am the second female to lead the New York Stock Exchange. 5 years ago, there had not been one female to lead the New York Stock Exchange. So after 226 years, we put our first female as president. I give you that context, thank you. I give you that context because I can't think of a more appropriate place to celebrate the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. The true mark, in my opinion, the true mark of an award-winning show is one that speaks to the viewers in a very personal way, and particularly one that has been set, not in modern day, but in days that our parents, our grandparents, remember. Now, let me give you a little bit of context as to why it was so personal for me. My mom grew up in the 40s, she was born in the 40s, graduated college in the early 60s. And growing up, she told me that a woman could have 4 dreams, just 4. She could be a secretary, she could be a teacher, she could be a nurse, or she could be a housewife. And when she had kids, there was one dream. You were gonna be the ideal housewife. Women weren't allowed to dream big. Women weren't allowed to dream of being CEOs or famous comedians. And the only time a woman really thought outside the box was when she was forced to, when her back was up against it. You know, that's something in my mind that is still a timeless element of this show. When life doesn't turn out as expected, that's when your courage comes in. That's when your grit comes in. And if you've got that mix of courage and grit, that allows you to dream big and go after your dreams, just as Midge did. One of the other timeless elements of the show is the pack, the community that supports Midge in her dreams. The only way someone succeeds today, we call it a network. And in an increasingly diverse world where there are still glass ceilings to be shattered, the only way you succeed is through what we call mentors, allies, supporters, but what Midge calls Susie and Lenny. So I want to thank you, Amy and Dan, for creating such an amazing show, one that is timeless, one that the viewers can take. It is truly the mark of genius when you speak to the viewers in such a way that resonates personally. So thank you for the last 4 seasons. We're all excited for season 5. We're all hoping Midge gets her big break. A lot of us will be watching, no spoilers here. But thank you for creating something that resonates with us at NYSE every day in the work we're doing to promote a more diverse world, and one that looks a lot different, not just today, but in the future. So Amy and Dan, come on up.
That was all off the top of our head, too. I looked back to see if there were prepared remarks. Very impressive.
Very good.
Because this is a hard act to follow.
How do you say all those words without swearing?
I don't know. That's something maybe you should sit with Lynn. Maybe. It's amazing to be here. You know, the show was always a celebration of New York, from the tippy top down to Wall Street, and sorry, Staten Island, we didn't really get to you that much, but
We shot there.
We did shoot there.
We bought sandwiches.
So, yeah, and you know, this was our journey to come to New York. We thank Amazon for letting us shoot here in New York City, with all its challenges, and all its rewards. You meet a lot of people when you're on location shooting and sussing out locations, and
You're very handsome, you know.
I think so. I know. Right now, that's the thought bubble
Just
above
like I can't think
everybody's
of
heads right
anything
now.
else.
I
You're
know.
just blindingly.
Just another Friday morning with Amy and Dan. Just happens to be here at the New York Stock Exchange. But thank you for having us. Like we were saying that, like, poor Tiffany shows us all these things, and we go like, oh no, oh no, oh no. It's like, ring the bell. It's like, ring the bell. Are you kidding? When? We'll be there. We wanted to do the opening bell. The closing bell is too
It's
too
much
dicey.
pressure.
Yeah, too much
Too
pressure.
much pressure.
The opening, we can
Yeah.
just ring it and get the
we'll
heck
take
out.
that guilt with us the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
We can't. It's like, start fresh.
Although
clean.
bank earnings came in very, very, very good today.
first
J.P.
thing-
Morgan
first thing you
Chase
said this morning.
is up in the futures. The Dow futures are up. The NASDAQ futures are slightly down, but the NASDAQ has had an incredible run over the last 3 weeks. Tech stocks year to date are up about 20%. Home builders, interestingly, are up. So I think that's all. I
We
think
saw
that's all. I can-
Grindr up there, so they're doing well too.
Yeah, there you go. So, but that's it. Thank you, thank you for having us. Thank you. This is the great cast. Some of our key crew sitting here. It's amazing to have you all here. Everyone from Amazon is here today. Thank you, Amazon. Have a good day today. We have skin in the game, so. And thank you. Aim, do you want to say a couple of words besides that I'm handsome?
You're so handsome. No, I'm because apparently, like, later on I can't say fuck. Oh, sorry. Anyhow, Hans, welcome to the stock exchange. Everybody, make sure you take your gold doubloons when you leave here. They're like giving out bars of money. Apparently, that's how they got me down here. No, this is really exciting. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, which is like growing up in a cardboard box. It's a nightmare. And as soon as I realized my father came from a place called New York, and I could move there and leave, it's what got me through childhood. Knowing that eventually I could get on a plane and come to New York and live here, where the greatest crews in the entire world work, the best artisans, the smartest people, the most annoyed homeowners when you take their parking spaces. It's the center of my universe. It's the center of everyone's universe. So we're sad to not be clomping down the streets, but soon, hopefully, again, we'll annoy everyone. I love you, cast. Every day that I see you is wonderful and horrifying because it's one less day that I'm going to see you. Thank you for this.
So, we have a couple of traditions at the NYSE. Every morning, we present our bell ringers with a medallion to remind you of your time with us. So, Amy, you want to present yours?
Thank you very much. That's great. Proudly displayed.
On the front of the medallion, it's got our 6 pillars, which stand for a variety of things, and most importantly, they stand for free markets around the world. And on the back is the buttonwood tree. We were founded under a buttonwood tree 231 years ago on the corner of Wall and Broad, which was our nation's capital. So it reminds us of our roots, but it reminds us of our commitment to sustainability.
Excellent.
Go.
Thank you. This is great. Thank you.
And it's a weapon. Yes. And no one goes home empty-handed at NYSE, so you all have a smaller medallion that you you can always voice your concerns to Amy and Dan. I'm sure they'd love to hear them. So the way this works, we're going to open the global equities markets now.
Good morning once again, and welcome to the New York Stock Exchange, the epicenter of the global financial markets. We have a busy day ahead of us. It is the first day of the earnings season, and we are celebrating the fifth and final season of the hit show Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. We have the creators and cast here, and this show was filmed in all around New York City in a bunch of iconic places, and who better to co-host with me than my colleague Pete Ash, who is also the head archivist here at the New York Stock Exchange. Pete, good morning.
Good morning. It's good to be here. We have an exciting group this morning. They're very energetic. They gave a little market commentary. We'll get some more market commentary perhaps later from people on the trading floor, maybe a little closer to the trading than they are.
Exactly. No, but I mean, this is it's a very exciting day overall, right? I mean, we were talking about how not only the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel changed the landscape of digital streaming, but also has inspired women throughout the years, which is iconic in itself, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, the show captures an inflection point, not just in New York, but across the country. Even in the business world, you don't think about business first when you think about the show and comedy, but it really captures the idea of what is possible in this, as the show's now entering the 60s, as society enters the 60s. And as we're talking, and we'll get into it over the course of this conversation, but there are a lot of things that the show kind of touches on that really has its roots down here at the corner of Wall and Broad. Lynn talked about being the second woman to ever run the exchange.
Yeah.
There's this time period where the floor behind us is changing, not just in who's on the floor in terms of diversity, men and women, but also the technology that we're using to manage the markets.
Absolutely. And for those of you who don't know, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel it's a show that takes place in New York City in the 50s and 60s at a time where women didn't have many rights, right? I mean, it was very difficult for them to even invest or become a CEO or become a comedian. And this show touches on all of that. Also, censorship and what it means for women to speak out, what would be considered okay if a man would say it, right? And if a woman would say the exact same thing, it wasn't necessarily accepted, right? I mean, as we saw on the show with Midge getting arrested a few times.
Yeah, but also, it's funny, Amy was talking about, you couldn't say a curse, she can't say a curse word when she's on this open channel. And if you think about that, it's, this period, one of the characters from the show, based on, the actual character, Lenny Bruce, they're pushing the boundaries of what is appropriate society, right? So, and if you think about that idea of, the things that today we don't really, we won't put a second thought into, it was really they're pushing for that. And you mentioned women and investing, and it's interesting, I actually, in preparing for this, did a little research looking back at 1961, and I actually found that the New York Stock Exchange had actually done its own research that year, 1961, same year that the fifth season takes place, and had actually discovered for the first time in the history of the United States that women actually owned more stock than men. Which is the fascinating thing to think of.
When you shared that article with us, I was like, oh my God, I would not have expected that.
Yeah, you don't feel the New York Stock Exchange for writing, witty copy, but I printed off our ad. We actually ran an ad, and I don't know if you can see on there, more women know what we're talking, but above it says, who says investing is a man's world? So we had some good copywriters back then.
Absolutely. And I love something that Lynn was saying in the boardroom, how women weren't allowed to dream big. And I really love how Midge's character in the show really pushes those boundaries, and really, she went against all odds, and she was defiant toward men. I mean, she was actually the brains behind her husband, Joel, right? Like when they were talking about all the jokes, and she was sort of the person behind all of his creativity when it came to stand-up comedy.
Definitely, and if you think about that idea of celebrating here, and they're not just celebrating here. The show is taking over a lot of parts of New York and capturing it, and you think about these icons, and that's really what the show is about. It's sort of like, changing icons, changing the face, changing the landscape. And around the corner, Wall and Broad, Lynn mentioned, 1792. There's a couple trees on the street, a couple people meeting underneath. By 1961, we have this building, but really we don't have the technology that we use today. And this idea of basically pushing the limits, pushing the boundaries, and trying to see how far you can make, not just for people, but also for the technology and the business, and whether it be the business economy or the business and capital markets that's going on behind us.
No, absolutely. And today, like I said, is the first day of earnings, the earnings season, and we're going to be covering that when we speak to some of the traders downstairs on the trading floor, the designated market maker. We have all of that lined up as we celebrate the 5th and final season of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I mean, I have to say, I'm excited for them, but I'm a little bit sad that the season's ending, because why does it have to end? I guess you're ending on a high note, right?
And I know we were talking to them, and they're definitely very sad. And you can see them now; they're making their way. We're now. You saw the boardroom before we came on camera.
Yes.
And now you're seeing the 6th floor, and that is the hallway that leads to the elevators, and sort of the other part of the exchange, right?
Yes.
The very visible trading floor, which we'll see a lot of. This is what's happening above the floor, and they're going to make their way down the about 100 feet or so from where they are on the 6th floor to the trading floor.
Yeah.
And we'll cover every aspect of that leading up to the opening bell, including, as you said, the book building, the activities that happen here on the floor.
Book signing, the signing of the wall. And, fun fact, Pete, and I'm sure you already know this, but we had the fastest elevators at one point in New York City.
We did. At the time of the show, it was fast elevators. We've had some increased speed in the areas around us. Moving an elevator up the 23 floors we have here required less speed than the 100 floors that would come up. But really, that's what you see. And honestly, that space above the trading floor is really, if you think about the 1960s, when that space really became to life as men and women began to work off the trading floor and provide the support system and the trading systems that would allow us to really emerge from just people yelling behind us to a global
with paper
network.
tickets and everything like that. And actually, you'll see in a minute as they come off the elevator, you're going to see them working their way through a sort of a technology maze, as Pete alluded to earlier with first-in-class technology. But you'll also see actual traders on the floor. So let's listen into that, and then we will meet you back down on the floor. Sorry. And now we are back on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange trading floor. As you can see, the cast and creators are right here by the distinguished guest book, just right underneath the opening bell. I mean, they are taking every opportunity to grab some selfies and video. And you could see just around the bell podium are dozens of their friends, colleagues, perhaps other people who worked on the show, the production team that are here to support as they ring the opening bell to open up the U.S. equity markets. So again, this is very exciting. There's a lot of characters in the audience today, wouldn't you say?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, there's always a lot of characters down here on the trading floor. A few more today. And we'll cover that as the opening bell comes around.
Yes, absolutely. And again, this is an active trading floor. So to be present here on the New York Stock Exchange trading floor, that's a big deal. It's not open to the public, and you might see some traders at many points of the day zooming past us because, again, we are opening up the U.S. equity markets, and we are going to see them, putting in the orders that came in overnight and really pricing out the stocks as we get ready to open up. And then we're going to also be a part of the festivities today. As you can see, everybody is working their way up the secret staircase, I like to call it, to head to the bell podium as we open up the U.S. equity market.
Yeah, and that market today is a $38 trillion market cap.
Yeah.
And just to set this, just to kind of set the scale for the audience back home, 1961, season 5 is taking place of the show. We did on the entire year 1 billion shares traded on this trading floor.
Wow.
Today, on an average day, we double that just in one day.
And it just speaks to the evolution here at the New York Stock Exchange as well, because just like the show showcases, the evolution and the inspiration to people, for that matter, through the years, we have also transitioned exactly how we go about trading. You don't see, necessarily like traders with the paper tickets in their hands anymore, but we are combining the first-in-class technology with a designated market maker that we have here on the trading floor, that we really have that human capital aspect as well.
Definitely. It's the best of both worlds we have going here on the trading floor today, and we'll talk to some of those traders here every day, as well as talk about the general market that really plugs into our systems.
Exactly. Let's see. And I'm trying to take a look to see some traders around to see if we can pull any of them to talk to later this morning. But I think right now everyone's getting situated on the bell podium as we prepare to hear that opening bell. We're about 3 minutes out. And what is it, about 9:28 and 30 seconds?
9:29 and 30 seconds.
9:29 and 30 seconds.
Though, to be clear, they've been very loud already behind us.
Yes.
You'll hear them get even louder. We'll have to stop talking at some point as everyone behind us starts cheering, welcoming that capital market. It's opening up the markets and allowing trading to happen, which closed here yesterday on the closing bell.
Yes.
A little conversation upstairs about the opening versus closing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, in terms of people watching, in terms of the excitement, there's not a lot of difference between the opening and closing bell, but what happens on the floor is what really changes.
Well, actually, there is a little bit of a difference. It's a 15-second hold down when you're opening up the market, right? And it's a little bit different when the close
So
comes?
it's 10 seconds to open up the market,
Okay.
15 seconds to close the market.
Okay.
That goes back to the technology we used on the trading floor 120 years ago. It was a little slower, it needed more time to get going. Today, we actually use, over the course of the day, we think about the people who used to yell at each other all day, how fast can you talk? I
Yes.
talk very fast. Well, compared to that, our systems today can actually translate 500 billion messages between the trading world, both here on the floor and also across the globe.
And what's unlike any other market in the world is that we have a designated market maker here on the trading floor. Again, we are combining the first-in-class technology with the designated market maker. The DMM is somebody who stands next to the stock, who prices it out, who really is with it for the days, weeks, years ahead, right? And I mean, we've had some of the DMMs here for years. I mean, some of the stocks that have been with us, some companies who have been listed with us have been listed with us upwards of 100 years, right?
We even celebrated 200 recently for one company.
Exactly.
And I said, just to give you guys warning back home, in just a couple seconds, you'll hear it get loud behind us. We'll have to stop talking, but then after the opening bell rings, we'll pick right back up with everything going on.
Absolutely. Let's listen in. markets are officially open. I have to say, the crowd did a very good job, Pete.
They did their part, and now it's up to the traders to do their part.
Yes, definitely. And we're going to be narrating the whole. Oh, here we go. I think we're going to get a chant. Are we getting a chant? No, we're not getting a chant yet. But we're going to take a look at a video. Our colleague Judy Shaw was actually on the red carpet and got to catch up with a lot of the co-creators and cast members of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
The fifth and final season of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel premieres on April 14th. We brought NYSE Floor Talk to the red carpet and asked a few of the cast members about their excitement leading up to tomorrow's opening bell to kick off the final season, what they thought about their characters, and what they'll miss most about the show.
Hey, I'm delighted to ring the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. I hope we bring some kind of great mojo and good luck and send the stocks soaring.
You're coming to visit us on Friday and ring the opening bell.
There might be
Are you excited?
Might be some bell ringing on Friday. Looking forward to it. It's something I've kind of always wanted to do. So, not kind of. I've always wanted to do it.
I do think Joel has grown almost, maybe the most out of everybody. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but it's interesting because it was really, despite the fact that he made the biggest mistake of his life in the first episode by leaving his perfect spouse, it kind of turned out great for everybody because that was sort of the catalyst and for everybody kind of leaving their careers and becoming something else, and it sort of had a domino effect. But everybody seems really happy.
I think Midge completely is the domino beginning effect of why Rose becomes what we see Rose as. I feel like Rose felt like this apple that fell right next to her tree should only be there, and then once she saw that tree and that apple were a little bit farther away, her branches, do you like this metaphor?
I love
her
it.
branches, my own branches, like the giving tree, just kept on going farther and farther with the reach, and then I realized that I actually needed to leave town, leave New York, head to Paris, find myself again, live a life like my daughters, and then I came back sort of a rebirthed person.
I love it. What do you like most about playing that role?
I love her authenticity. And she has no self-consciousness. She's never second-guessing herself. She has no boundaries. She doesn't respect anybody else's boundaries, which I think, wouldn't it be fun to live that way? Like at the top of your lungs with no sense of that you've done anything wrong. All you want to do is love the people you love and feed them.
How does it feel to be a part of the show?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, it was an honor really to sort of be asked to be part of this last chapter of this iconic show and kind of, help them stick the landing, which I hope I did. Yeah. Listen, one of the big litmus tests for me when the first episode started airing 5-6 years ago was to talk to my other stand-up comedian friends and ask them what they thought of the authenticity. And I was over the moon with their reactions because I had no objectivity, too close to it, But Rachel's otherworldly, and of course Luke Kirby as Lenny Bruce is the most brilliant ever.
Honestly, stepping on set every day was a joy. I've never been on a set like this, where every person on the show was so happy to be there. It was kind of an anomaly, so I'm gonna miss the energy.
All right, I am joined by Citadel Securities head of DMM floor trading, Pete Giacchi. So our first question is, how's the opening going so far?
Well, Peter, thanks for having me. So far the market is flat, but we've seen a large sector today, the financial sector, begin to report their earnings as we get into earnings season. So it's good to see the market absorbing those earnings right now.
And so, we talked a little bit before we talked to you about the role of the DMM, but for the audience who may be unfamiliar, you are the head of DMM floor trading for Citadel Securities. What does that mean for not just the trade investors out there, but also the companies that list here?
Yeah, so obviously the New York Stock Exchange has the unique model of the DMM, where there's somebody who's responsible for the trading in each symbol on the floor. Currently on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange, Citadel Securities is responsible for roughly around 60% of all the symbols traded on the floor. We're the largest DMM by symbol count and market cap. And what that really means is not only are our folks providing interest electronically, systematically, they're also supplying liquidity manually. On top of that, they service the clients each day on what the trading flows in the stock and how the stocks are performing.
And so we were talking a little bit earlier, this show, season 5, took place in 1961. On the floor at that time, in the entire year, we did 1 billion shares. Now we do almost double that across our markets. How has your job changed as the speed and the technology's picked up?
Yeah, well, obviously markets have become efficient over time. And one thing I think that investors in the U.S. can be confident of is that the U.S. equity markets are efficient. And over time, with the advantage of systematic trading, the workflows have changed for our traders down here, where they've now become much more relationship managers, helping the companies understand about what's going on in their stocks, what's driving their flows, and how their stocks are performing on an intraday basis. When we were down here 15, 20 years ago, I traded one stock and I had 4 clerks that worked with me. Now I maintain 42 stocks and I'm able to do it alone and chat with you while we're systematically trading at this point in time.
Well, thanks so much for chatting with us. I'll let you get back to your work and overseeing your securities, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Peter. Thanks for having us.
We are back here on the trading floor, and I am joined by the cast of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. We have Reed, Alfie, and so, Josh, you have the communications department here at ICE and the NYSE.
Trinity, this is like a high school reunion because I am standing next to Maren Henkel, class of 1984, Newton South High School, my classmate, the most beloved, accomplished actress of so many high school productions. And although we're celebrating 5 years of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, go back to 1982, 83, 84. Talk about some of the roles you got and the mentors you had.
I have to say I was always drawn to acting because I felt like it brought joy, and the idea of telling stories was a safe and exciting place for me, and the idea I've gotten to do it and make a tiny bit of a living and be at the stock exchange and live in New York. These are dreams come true, and work with people like these two. So, and see you again after 40, or should we say 30? We'll say 30 or 20 years.
A bunch of years.
A bunch of years. Haven't seen him in 4 decades. It's amazing.
And Alfie, how do you feel being here at the New York Stock Exchange? I mean, celebrating the 5th season, but also the final season.
Oh, well, obviously I'm sad that it's ending, right? But I'm so proud of the work that we made and the show that we created, the world that we built, and it's afforded me opportunities like this. I never thought that I'd be here at the Stock Exchange, so I'm just incredibly excited.
So are we, and we're so happy to have you all here. Reed, can you tell me what was one of the most memorable moments working with your cast over the years?
I think just the warmth. I sort of drop in for the end of season 4 and season 5, and when I joined the cast, it was already an iconic show, and I was a big fan, and I got to say a little intimidated. But from day one, everybody in the cast and crew just welcomed me with open arms, and they are a singular bunch, the cast and crew of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, lightning in a bottle, and I'm going to miss you guys. Yeah.
Maren, how are you feeling? I mean, obviously this is a huge milestone for the show because it's been extremely successful, but I mean, it's also very emotional.
It's deeply emotional. It's funny, I think I will never see the last episode because that will mean that it's actually over. People were asking if we felt bittersweet, and I don't really see the sweet part of it ending yet, except that I get to be with you all today. That's pretty sweet. But It really is, it was a family that got created, the cast, the crew, the visionaries behind it, and I hope we will forever kind of have this memory and reconnect.
Well, we are definitely going to miss the show. I am a huge fan myself. And
I have time for one more question.
Yes,
to
of
these
course,
guys?
of course.
So we know what the life is like of a series regular and how much time it takes. You know, whenever table reads begin, production starts, and you finish 10 or 11 or 12 episodes, that's some period of months. And then you can do some other projects for a couple months, and then you have to do publicity for your season. And we're watching the end of Maisel, and we're watching the end of Succession, and we're seeing this great couple dozen actors who are now ready to think about their next projects to consume their lives. So how does it work? How do you talk with your managers and agents and look at scripts and look at projects to say, beyond the things that I can do for a 12-week shoot, now I can potentially do another series?
It's tough. I mean, I've had the good fortune to be part of, 2 really incredible shows, Veep and then now Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And you can never approach it saying, I want to sort of match that. You're always just trying to do something that you're drawn to, and you hope that other like-minded, really talented people feel the same way. It's hard to project too much into the future. You really do have to kind of take it day by day. We are, vagabonds, really, and you sort of...
I'll go wherever a job asks me to go to. I swear, I don't have any sense of snobbishness about it. It has to be a big role. It has to have a particular... If there's something in the story that feels compelling, I used to say if there was one part of what I read in a pilot or a film that I got excited to actually speak aloud, then I'll say yes. Now, that wasn't actually what the agents and managers kind of level and barometer was, but for me, the idea of actually being part of something that you're excited to go to work to, I mean, what else could you ask for, right?
I'm a bit of a workaholic, so I like to have a job set up before the job that I'm on is ending, and I do.
Yay!
But I. Well, not quite because contract, but I do.
Come back to the exchange to make it?
Yeah, exactly,
Okay.
and I can tell you guys about it then. But yeah, I kind of like to line it up like that.
Well, we're definitely we're gonna offer you an invitation to come back and give us the exclusive, make that announcement.
Lovely, wonderful.
Well, we're gonna let you guys go, get back to the celebration. Congratulations again on a hugely successful show, and we look forward to having you back sometime.
Thank you, Trinity.
Thanks for having us, and thanks for reconnecting me with Josh.
Thank you.
All right, take care.
Thanks, guys.
All right, I am joined on the trading floor by Laura Diario, our head of social. So many of you are back home watching on this channel. So, Laura, they're obviously watching this webcast right now, but what else has been going on around in NYC this week?
Yeah, there's a ton going on. I mean, today this is streaming on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube at NYSC. And there's a ton going on our social channels. You can check it all out. Just the other day, we had UConn Huskies come in, 5-time NCAA champs. They were celebrating a ton. We had, a lot of athletes recently because you got March Madness. You got the Miami Marlins coming in with their partnership with ADT Securities listed on the New York Stock Exchange. We're constantly celebrating our listed companies. There was just a collab with Elf Cosmetics and American Eagle, both listed on the New York Stock Exchange. And if you're interested, April is actually Financial Literacy Month. Did you know that?
I did know that.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, you've been helping me out with them. So on Twitter, we're actually doing a tweet of the day. So if you want to brush up on your financial literacy, you can check us out at NYSC on Twitter. I'm rolling out tweets every day. What is an IPO? What's a limit order? These things that you just want to refresh every now and then. And oh my gosh, my favorite recently, we had Giannis Antetokounmpo, his brothers, and Calamos ETFs come into the stock exchange to list their NYSE ARCA SROI ETF. It was a crazy day, like one of the coolest days I've had here. I'm a pretty big fan. I'm not even that big of a sports fan, to be honest, but I love when they come here.
Well, and just get on the historian, you know the history. The background on that is a couple years ago, Mark Lazary, who owns the Bucks, brought Giannis here to learn about the market. And you think about that, in just a couple of years, he picked it up, he learned all about the market, and he launched his own ETF. So before I let you go, we actually rolled a cut of some of the interviews that our colleague Judy Shaw did. Where can everyone find all the full interviews?
NYSE Floor Talk and all of our NYSE TV content can be found at New York Stock Exchange YouTube, at NYSE on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and we're on TikTok at NYSE_official. I'll see you guys there.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, Pete.
I am joined now with Peter Tuchman. He is a senior equity trader at TradeMoss. Pete, I hear that your wife is a big fan of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
You know, first of all, she looks marvelous. And yes, my wife is a big fan. I don't watch TV that much. She has dragged me in to see the show a couple of times, but she's a big fan.
What does she like most about the show?
You know what? Look, she loves comedy. She loves the light part of it. It's sort of a throwback to that era of the 50s and 60s, which I think in this crazy world we live in, it kind of feels more like what home used to be like and the family thing. And also about the fact that a woman is stepping out of the box and breaking ceilings, and she loves that.
Absolutely, and obviously it's a hugely successful streaming show. How do you think shows like this has changed the landscape of digital streaming services?
Wow, that's a complicated question. I wasn't prepared for that one. Look, I think the whole nature of TV has changed. Right now we get to, look, we just went through 2.5 years where we spent a lot of time at home, and I think that was an actual perfect time for streaming and sort of, what do you call it, binging shows, right? So look, the environment changed. It's wonderful. It kind of gives shows like that some really good longevity, and it's a wonderful thing.
Now, today is the first day of earnings season. What can we expect? What do you anticipate this season?
Let's really be clear. 2 weeks ago, we were in the midst of a massive global bank crisis. We had 4 bank failures, first time in many, many years. And now bank earnings come out today. They launched out. JP Morgan did better than expected. So that's a good thing. Look, we're not going to see the results of what happened a couple of weeks ago with Silicon Valley Bank, Silvergate, obviously Credit Suisse. That was big. I don't think we've seen the end of the contagion of that story. But look, right now the market's looking for anything to bite into in a positive way with all the stuff going around about interest rates, Federal Reserve, inflation, recession possibilities and all that. So to come out of the gate with JP Morgan announcing better than expected earnings is a good thing.
And how do you think the NYSE floor is suited in such a news-driven environment right now for earnings season?
You know what, look, you know me, I'm the ambassador of this place. It's the greatest financial institution in the world. We are ready for anything. As you can see, we can be hosting heads of state, we can be hosting wonderful parties, we can be hosting wonderful shows like the Marvelous Maisel. But our primary job and primary purpose is to create a smooth and active market for all different companies in all different sectors. So every day we come in, we are there disseminating information to customers, trying to keep stocks trading in a correct way. A couple of weeks ago, we had 29 stop trade, limit up, limit down when the crisis happened. We were there, front lines, boots on the ground, doing what we have to do to make sure that nobody is disengaged in a financial way.
And how do you think earnings will impact future Fed decisions?
You know what? I'm not sure that's going to be the case, because right now, most of the things that are affecting Fed decisions, okay, is obviously the inflation, CPI, PPI, and those other numbers. Obviously the I just blanked out. Obviously, the labor market, okay, that's a big paradox right now. We may have to actually surrender a bunch of people to within the labor market to, in fact, get inflation under wraps, right? We are seeing things roll over. The core number was a little more disappointing. The CPI number was a good number. And so I think those are the main things, the indicators that will affect the Fed decision. I don't think earnings have anything to do with it, to be perfectly honest.
Well, thank you so much, Pete, for joining me today. I'll let you get back to work. I know that the markets just opened up, so you have a...
We're ready to go.
Yes, we're ready to go. We're ready to go. All right, take care. Now I'm going to bring in another person who is near and dear to our team here at the NYSC. Bianca, you're also a fan of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Very big fan. I love the show. It's one of my favorite shows that I watch religiously, and I've watched every single season. It's amazing.
I really love how this show sort of has been an inspiration to women throughout the years. Not only single women, but I just think women in general, don't you think?
I love it because they represent women that are married, divorced, finding themselves, working women from all different backgrounds. And the best thing about these characters is that they all are not perfect. So, they have these unlikable moments that you just find really endearing, and it's great to kind of show all those different types of people represented.
And obviously it's an exciting day. I can't even talk because I'm excited myself because the 5th season is coming up. However, it's also the final season. I'm really sad about that.
I'm sad as well, but I've been a huge fan of Amy Sherman-Palladino. I was, a huge Gilmore Girls fan, loved Bunheads, and obviously loved Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So now I'm just kind of excited to see what she's going to do next. So I'm really excited for the next show, so it's probably going to be just as good.
All right, Bianca. Well, thank you so much. I'll let you get back to work.
Thank you so much.
All right, Pete, come back in here. It's been an exciting day, and the festivities are just beginning.
We've talked to a lot of people. We've heard
a lot of
things.
Yep.
And now it's time to really wrap it up. But we have one more surprise for the
Yes.
audience back home.
Yes, we're going to let you take a look at the trailer, and then we'll see you next time.
What drives Midge Maisel?
I want a big life. I want to break every single rule there is.
Oh, boy, I'm lucky.
Mrs. Maisel! You say everything I think. A terrifying connection.
You seem to be experiencing very bad luck.
I don't know about that.
This is my lucky day.
My business is really picking up. It's a busy professional office now.
What was it like?
So many. What?
Whatever.
Too much talking.
Boy, are you in the wrong family, kid.
Not one person who's ever accomplished anything of worth in life has ever been happy.
It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and I'm tired of it.
This is it. This is the break. They can see you for what you are, a goddamn star. You in?
I'm in.
It's showtime.
I'm gonna get this. You'll see.
Together, we built something truly beautiful in the true iconic notion of what America is all about.
This is our task, this is our mission. We have a clear focus and we have the ability to be agile and innovate as a young startup.
It takes years of dedication to get us to this milestone. It is all because of you.
Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. It is the only thing that ever has.
To be a woman leader, it's not so easy, but it's easy if the passion and the love is coming from your heart.
The New York Stock Exchange is the symbol of what America is all about. Potential of capitalism, the potential of an American dream.
The only way you can move a society forward is a true expression of freedom.